Okay, so it's not an uncontroversial take that Multiversus has a large overlap in the platform fighter community. Most people would say it plays like a strange combination of Smash Ultimate and Brawlhalla. While I'm not too familiar with the Brawlhalla scene, I am a Seasons 3-2 or 4-2 Ultimate local top 8 enjoyer. Because of this, I'd like to help bridge the gap with some of my other Smash Bros enjoyers by making a video that might help clear the air on how some of the characters play in Smashy Bros terms. A handsome fellow content creator slash streamer known as Coney made a video when the open beta dropped comparing every character in Multiversus to a character in Smash. While I do think he got a good bit right, there's been much more time for the game to develop, as well as plenty new characters that have dropped since. He also, even with almost 100 hours in the game, still wasn't sure what all of the characters did, specifically because some of them were much more rare than others. So today, I'm going to go ahead and drop the new and improved version of what Multiversus character you should play based on your Smash main. I want to make it crystal clear in advance that this is an opinion piece, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now with all the disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. This time, instead of doing it in alphabetical order like my shorts, I'm going to mix it up by categorizing characters. We're going to start off with all the DC/comic book characters, then go over all the cartoon characters, then just a couple movie characters, and at the end we'll cover the two characters that don't really fit into any of these categories. Starting with my personal main, Batman. Batman's defining features are oppressive speed in neutral and extended advantage states. His main weakness is that he's light and requires a lot of hits to close stocks. With just that much, I'm sure you guys can guess, he's Sheik. Batman and Sheik are both neutral monsters. Both don't really get edge guarded and both put you in what feels like an inescapable blender. The main difference, and probably the main reason why Coney said he's Fox in his video, is because he actually does do mad damage. But in my opinion, Fox doesn't lock you down and reset advantage nearly as much as Batman does. And while yes, Batman can be edge guarded, it's by no means a staple weakness of his. So for that reason, if you like Sheik and Smash, be sure to give Batman a try. Up next on the DC list of characters is Superman. Superman is all about annoying you into approaching, and then when you finally do get into Superman range, he kills you. And while there are a lot of close-up monsters in Smash, I would say the most accurate to Superman would be Donkey Kong. While it's not one-to-one, I think the way that he forces approaches and pokes people out lines up best with Donkey Kong's charge punch and forward tilt. Anyone who's been grabbed by DK knows that there's a chance that you could just die outright, and it's much the same when Superman gets his hands on you. I also thought about the Shotos, although I don't think they fit as well since they don't use their poke tools to force approaches, but more so to facilitate their own approach, which Superman can do, but it's not ideal. So for that reason, if you like Donkey Kong and Smash, try out Superman. Continuing the DC chain is Wonder Woman. The first thing that a Smash player is going to notice is the fact that she has a sword. And while yes, the sword is a big strength of hers, and again with a ton of projectiles, she's not going to be able to wall out people the same way Martha or Lucina would. Wonder Woman needs to be running people down to be effective, and her sword is the tool that allows her to beat out other hitboxes at close range. For that reason, I'm slapping Wonder Woman with the Croy sticker. Yeah, I'm gonna say both of them. I don't want to give off the impression that she has a base sweet spot like Roy. At the same time though, while she can get edge guarded, it's not a glaring weakness for her like it is Chrom. So if you're a member of the crackhead Croy army, be sure to give Wonder Woman a try. We're getting close to the end of the DC characters now with Harley Quinn. Harley is a tricky rushdown character who utilizes a lot of mobility and projectiles to cut off avenues for her opponents and start her scary combos. Taking one look at the perk that gives her mobility special invincibility might be enough to get the flashbacks going for Smash players. Yeah, she's ZSS. Her and ZSS also combo in a similar fashion, in the sense that they have good combo routes that they can alter depending on whether they prefer to ledge trap or juggle. So if you're a flip kick abuser and proud, try out Harley Quinn. Finally, we got Black Adam. It's important to establish that Black Adam is a character whose game plan is all about minimalizing risk in his approaches. He's got a lot of safe options when it comes to neutral, disadvantage, and even low risk advantage state options with tons of coverage. When looking over his moveset, you may just think that he's a unique character and doesn't really have any Smash parallels. But then I opened him up, looked inside, and found a little yellow rat on a wheel. Now, it may seem like a stretch, but Pikachu is also hard to lock down and has an overall oppressive advantage state when he gets going. Now, he's not as strong as Ultimate Pikachu by any means, as outside of edge guards, Black Adam kinda struggles to kill or rack up damage for that matter. But they do share a lot of the same design choices and function in very similar ways when it comes to their overarching game plan. While he may not look cute and cuddly, if you enjoy Pikachu, give Black Adam a try. The similarities may shock you. Now that we're done with DC, we're going to tackle the biggest category, the toons. Note the O's in the spelling, as in this section we'll be covering all the cartoon characters, not just the Looney Tunes. We're going to start with the Multiversus character that everyone already knows and hates, Bugs Bunny. Now, Bugs is weird, and they tried a lot of new stuff with him, so he doesn't really fit cleanly into any Smash character. He's got wacky moves galore, tons of projectile manipulation, insane buttons, and crazy kill power. Honestly, this character is just kind of broken in his current state. But there is one character in Smash that he does line up with in quite a few shocking ways. And that wacky character is Cloud. So while most Smash players know him for strictly back air, back in my day in Smash 4, the killer Cloud move was up air, and yeah, that checks out. Limit, while seemingly a unique strength of Cloud's, has its kill power and versatility echoed by Bugs' Rocket. They both even have a weakness in their recovery unless they have this resource. So for that reason, if you've been enjoying Final Fantasy VII Remake, give Bugs a try. Next up is Taz, and yeah, anyone familiar with competitive Smash knows this is Wario. You could maybe argue that he's got shades of Mario because of his projectile, but the primary thing about Taz is that he's a heavily aerial-based fighter who has super stubby buttons, but will mess you up if you can't stuff him out. While he doesn't have a fart cloud that kills super early, he does have a dust cloud that kills super early. The only thing that doesn't feel right when calling him Wario is that his recovery is awful, which isn't an issue that Wario has, so long as he has Bike. I think this is outweighed by the fact that they're using pretty much the same moves to answer the exact same situations in 90% of their matches. So if you like taking a bite out of your opponents with Wario, you can do the very same with Taz. For the last of the musical tunes, we have Marvin the Martian. Marvin is all about his projectile manipulation, but don't let that fool you. Despite him filling the screen with projectiles, it's very rare for a Marvin main to camp or poke you out. Marvin is all about set play and using his projectiles to facilitate his own approaches by cutting off options and running you down with them. A lesser used character in Smash who does much of the same thing is Duck Hunt Dog. In a shocking similarity, their projectiles are specifically designed to be pretty weak as long-range poke options to rack up damage, but are amazing for suffocating opponents and pushing them into tough spots. So if you have nasty can mix-ups with Duck Hunt, be sure to give Marvin a try. So for Finn, I've seen a lot of comparisons that fail to realize the real strengths and weaknesses of the character. Even people who get the idea of Finn usually fumble hard when it comes to the general comparison. Just to be clear, Finn is a character who thrives on the ground and wants to be in your face, mashing and beating out your buttons. Finn's primary weakness is that he struggles to deal with airborne or platform camping opponents, and his recovery outside of his gym is kinda buns. So everyone say it with me, this character is Little Mac. No one wants to say it because Little Mac is laughably bad, and Finn is every new player's worst nightmare. But I really cannot exaggerate how hard it is for Finn to hit people who are above the range of his charge grounded up attack. Look at this situation. You know who else would be fucked in this situation? Little Mac. How about this one? Ain't no way that Little Mac is getting past this gap unscathed, and Finn is the exact same. Sure, Finn has nasty air combos alongside good edge guarding, and Little Mac just literally can't. But does it really matter how they mess you up if they're both destroying you for trying to box with them? So for that reason, if you want to step into the ring of Multiversus, you may want to give Finn a try. You may think that on the surface level, Jake and Min Min's huge stretchy arms make them the closest comparison, but I'm here to inform you that he's a different kind of distance demon. Jake and Byleth are both characters who use their big range to wall people out, rack up damage, and even close stocks. But at the same time, they can keep their opponents on their toes by approaching with their big combo starting nair to get their advantage state going. Both don't ever really need to be worried about getting edge guarded, but also lack fast tools to get themselves out of disadvantage. Well, Jake has this if people get too crazy, but I've also been reversal and killed with Byleth down air for going too crazy, so that's kinda similar. So if you missed the old MKLeo, and by that I mean 2022, try out Jake the Dog. Moving on to the next cartoon franchise / character, we got Steven Universe. One look at this and Ultimate players already know what his deal is. Don't panic yet though, as putting an N in the middle of Steve-pocalypse just makes it imaginary. The biggest similarity is that their wall forces approaches because you don't want them to power up for free. And while Steven is a little too young to have that diamond bling, letting him get his cooldowns back, specifically Steven Bomb, is enough of a threat to force you to at least try to deal with the wall. And once they have their win conditions, they both try to run you down and kill you. And in situations where they can't, they just rack up just enough damage to hit you away, and then they go back to stall and get their win condition again. So while Steven deals in spheres instead of cubes, if you like Steve, you should give Steven a try. Up next is Garnet, and I'll be honest, this is the only character I have no clean comparison for. I'm not too confident in saying this, but if I had to tie it to any Smash character, I'd have to go with Bowser. Both of these characters excel in getting on top of you, beating out your buttons, and edge guarding you to death. Both are also pretty big and have big disadvantage states that lead to them getting edge guarded hard. But at the same time, both of them have a few options and disadvantage that make them not as free to beat up as other heavyweights of similar strength. Garnet doesn't have Flame Breath or anything, but her neutral special shuts down armor and lets her run over rushed approaches, in much the same way that Flame Breath stops dash blocking. So if you enjoy Bowser, King of the Koopas, you may want to give Garnet, the leader of the Crystal Gems, a try. Moving on to this Scooby-Doo series, we'll take a look at Shaggy. When a lot of people see how fast he moves and they see this move in particular, they usually make a pretty quick gut comparison. As a Falcon main and Ultimate myself, I don't think the comparison is completely incorrect, but at the same time, I do feel like Mario fits the bill just a little bit better. You see, while Shaggy loves running you down, in this game, that speed is not exactly a unique trait. Much of Shaggy's in-game strength comes from his versatility and ability to play a large variety of playstyles. Much like how Dark, Wizzy, and Kurama play completely differently, two Shaggys can also play differently. And you don't see that much unless your character is a true jack of all trades. And unlike characters like Pit and Dark Pit, Shaggy and Mario are still geared towards running you down. So if you enjoy Super Mario, Super Saiyan Shaggy could be your pick. Everyone who knows about competitive multiverses knows that Velma has been a consistent dominant pick. What may surprise you though is that the character that lines up most with her in Smash pretty much has never been a dominant pick. Villager and Velma share a pretty stable game plan of constantly trying to play keep away. Both of their spammable normals have high range and are effective at keeping people far away so they can tack on damage. Both can also set up camp in a particular spot to punish anyone trying to get on top of them too quickly. They also have terrible recoveries and can't do a whole lot once you've broken their zone. The main difference though is that Velma's approaches can lead to some devastating situations that can lead to her taking a stock. And well, I'm just gonna chalk it up to Villager being bad. So if you enjoy the village life, time in the library as Velma might be something to consider. In their own little cartoon series, we have Tom and Jerry. This duo is all about filling the screen with projectiles to rack up damage, and then using their huge safe hitboxes to fill the screen and then close a stock after landing a confirm or stuffing a hasty approach. That said though, their recovery is extremely weak and their lightweight amplifies this, as if they get launched too far off stage, there's no coming back. So while there are plenty of zoners in Smash, none fill the screen quite as well and have quite as bad as recovery as Simon and Richter. Most of the other zoners in Smash have pretty good recoveries in terms of just making it back to the stage, but Simon and Richter not only have the same win condition, but also the same lose condition, making them the clear choice. So feel free to fill up the screen with projectiles the same way you would with Richter when you try out Tom and Jerry. Starting the last series of cartoon characters will be Rick. Rick is another character who loves filling the screen with projectiles, but there's usually a method to the madness. While they don't have to, Rick can play 40 chess with people with the way he's able to control the screen and force approaches. He kinda struggles to approach himself due to the lack of anything that breaks armor and somewhat stubby buttons, but at the same time, he can remedy this by throwing a projectile to cover himself. And for that reason, I'm gonna give it up to Snake. Snake is all about filling the screen with grenades and playing the game thinking 3 steps ahead with his explosions, in much the same way Rick does with his Portal, Meeseeks, and Charge Blast. The one thing they don't have in common though is their recovery. That said though, as long as Rick has his Portal available, his recoveries start becoming just as free as Snake's, even with the fact that deep edge guards will shut down both of these quote-unquote free recoveries. If you got the 40 chess plays with grenades, be sure to try your hand all the same with Rick and his Meeseeks. Wrapping up the last of the cartoon characters is Morty. Morty's gonna be a bit of a hard sell, but I think Morty lines up pretty well with Link. Morty uses his bomb similarly to Link, as the bomb itself creates a no-go zone for whoever they're fighting. Link's boomerang is a notoriously oppressive tool that covers a lot of ground and airspace. And in much the same way, Morty's snake shot can control the ground and air in front of him. While Morty doesn't have a sword, he can use his forward air as a great anti-air / boxing tool in much the same way that Link does with his forward air. One significant strength that Morty does have over Link though is his large variety of recovery tools. Funnily enough though, both Link and Morty's most reliable way to get back to stage is their down specials. So despite Morty really not having the Triforce of Courage on his side, if you like Link, give Morty a shot. Now that we're done with all the cartoon characters, we're going to move into our next section, movie characters, with someone who is also a cartoon, Iron Giant. Iron Giant is a big dude, so that quickly cuts it down to a select few characters already. One of Iron Giant's biggest strengths while being a big dude is his ability to quickly reversal out of situations and mess you up for it. While there are a couple big dudes in Smash that can do that, no one does it quite like King K. Rool. While K. Rool's projectiles are a bit more oppressive, Iron Giant has some pretty good pressure with his projectiles as well, especially in Rage mode. They also share the fact that they will almost always be able to make it back to the stage, and it's a lot more likely that they'll just be escorted to the blast zone. So if you like them big and like them chunky, be sure to pick up Iron Giant. Going from a late 90s movies character to a mid 80s movie character, let's go ahead and tackle the Gremlins with Gizmo. Gizmo can take a bit of time to get his zoning and offense going. His most dangerous setups can involve 2 or 3 moves to be prepped in advance. That being said though, Gizmo doesn't want to completely wall you out. He's a lot more focused on using these setups to force approaches and then suddenly shift gears to start his combos. This is because his buttons aren't the best to outright brawl with, but put him in a shockingly good advantage state when he does get that hit. For this reason, I gotta give it up to Pac-Man. Gizmo and Pac-Man are both just so good at always making someone feel pressured in some way. Sure, they're not the greatest if they're just trying to fight you outright, but it's that mixture of zoning and aggression that keep them unpredictable and mentally overwhelming. So if you're a staple Pac fan in Ultimate, give Gizmo a try. On the more devious side of the spectrum is Stripe. Stripe is a bit of an interesting case, as his normals would lead you to believe he's a little lackluster and would struggle to get in. But when combined with his projectiles, he's suddenly a slippery little gremlin, literally, and he becomes really difficult to contest in neutral. While there are a few characters in Smash that like to approach with their projectiles, I'm gonna give it to Young Link, but Mario is also an acceptable comparison. The reason I say Young Link over Mario is because projectiles as a whole are a lot more important for Stripe to be able to function as a character. And while Stripe doesn't want to camp you out or try to force approaches like Young Link does, the screen control that Saw Blades provide make his game plan a bit more set play oriented. If you enjoy playing the Gremlin of Smash, an actual Gremlin gets the job done just as well. LeBron James' presence in Multiversus is pretty shocking, but it's also shocking once you realize what Smash character he plays like. LeBron essentially has two stances or forms, but one of them you never really want to be in, so I don't want to say he's like Pyra/Mythra. And while Joker is a character that fits the bill pretty nicely, they don't really play similar at all. LeBron is a lot more screen control oriented, and while he can run you down, he doesn't really want to. LeBron wants to overwhelm you with screen control and then start his conversions that way. For that reason, I think the character that compares to him best is actually Olimar. Now while it's rare for you to see Olimar with no Pikmin at all, both are constantly thinking about this resource in order to stay strong characters. Both even lack good recovery, so once they get opened up, they can pay for it severely. So swap out those purples for the rock and be sure to give LeBron a try if your girl calls you Myron. The next category isn't really a cartoon, DC, or even really a movie character, so in our own category is Arya Stark. Arya mains only want one thing, and it's disgusting. Her neutral has a few tricks, but it's overall kinda lacking. Mostly because while she does have tools to get in, she doesn't really have answers to a lot of stuff. She's a combo fiend who can carry you to the blast zone, but can kinda struggle to kill if you don't kill with said combo. If you frequent Smash locals, it's more than likely you know this character's already on your top 8 graphic, it's Bayonetta. Both of these characters are defined by what I mentioned prior, in that both characters' game plan is very honest and straightforward, but is also very effective against anyone who's not ready for it. Against Bayo, it's her side special, and oh hey, look at that, it's her side special too. So if you think Smash 4 was an underrated masterpiece, be sure to try out Arya Stark. Rounding out the last character who also doesn't fit into any established categories is Raindog. Raindog is a corner-to-corner zoner who wants nothing more than to create an obstacle course of projectiles for you to maneuver around. The only good close-range buttons they do have are designed to hit you away for them to run back to the opposite side of the map and set up camp. And while their up special may have them looking like a blue blur, they're not too far off course from replicating someone else's ball up move. I'm sure you all could have guessed it with corner to corner zoner, but this guy is just literally Samus. Sure, they kinda struggle to kill and they get edge guarded, but their gameplay is pretty much identical. Instead of bomb and charge shot, Raindog's down special kinda does both by empowering their projectiles and creating a small defensive area in front of them. Imagine hopping online to play Smash teams online with no team attack and running into Samus. You're pretty much one-to-one getting the same kind of gameplay of them just running away and constantly shooting projectiles. So if making your opponent rage quit with corner-to-corner projectile gameplay is your thing, give Raindog a try. I want to go ahead and thank everyone who's watched this video. I'll be dropping more content soon, so be sure to subscribe if you liked the video enough to make it all the way here. The next video I have planned was actually the winner of a poll I posted in the community tab, so be sure to check there. If you didn't hear your ultimate main in here, don't worry. Multiversus is coming back on May 28th with its full release, and there's going to be even more characters to choose from. Right, Tony? Right? Well, regardless, if you tried the game before and it didn't feel right, be sure to give it a shot again when it re-releases. They showed off a lot of changes in the trailers, such as the characters' models being bigger and the movement of the game slowing down a good bit. All this to say that the gameplay should feel a little less foreign to you Smash veterans out there. I hope I can see you all in game, and yeah, that's a wrap. See you guys in the next video.